The 4th of July for most of us means fireworks and barbecues, but for about 100 lucky lottery winners, they get to run the Badwater 135. Billed as the world's toughest foot race, it stretches 135 miles across America's hottest desert, Death Valley, and up the continental United States' highest peak, Mount Whitney. The race takes place in Death Valley National Park in the eastern side of the Sierra. As you can see, it's pretty close to Las Vegas, but far from Los Angeles and San Jose. This is one of the hottest areas in the world. They reach the lowest temperatures in the United States. So the race starts in Badwater Basin in Death Valley National Park. And this is the lowest point in the United States at 282 feet below sea level. Very low and at very high temperatures. So it basically follows north through Furnace Creek, and then it follows Highway 190 through Stovepipe Wells, through Panamint Springs, and after that it starts a pretty sharp uphill curve all the way to Mount Whitney. So you're following 190 up to 136 here, where you pass through Keeler, Swansea, Dolomite, and Lone Pine. And the race will end at Mount Whitney at the top of a tough climb, not on Mount Whitney Peak, but at Mount Whitney Portal. The race used to end at Mount Whitney Peak, which was an additional 11 miles. However, they had to shave off that part because it was too difficult to get permits for all the racers and all the crews and everything to be able to get up Mount Whitney. So the race ends at Whitney Portal. There's a total distance of 135 miles and a total elevation gain of about 13,000 feet, which is pretty substantial, although there are races with greater elevation gain. However, not in that much heat. On the elevation profile, you can see that the race starts out below sea level and is very flat for the first 42 miles, all the way up to Stovepipe Wells. And that part of the race is done entirely in the dark and at night, so it is relatively cooler. However, as I'll show you on the weather report, it only really gets down to high 80s, so like 87, 88 degrees at night in Badwater Basin. So it's still quite hot. But fortunately, the runners avoid the hottest part of the day, at least until they have to first climb coming out of Stovepipe Wells early in the morning on July 5th. And that is a long, tough climb in morning heat. And then the next big climb is coming out of Panamint Springs. You'll see there's another big climb here. Panamint Springs has another tough climb, and then there's some flat/downhill all the way up to Lone Pine. Passing through the town of Lone Pine, continuing on up to Whitney Portal, the last, say, 15 miles of the race is a very tough climb, possibly the toughest climb of the race, and in the last 15 miles when the runners are going to be the most exhausted. One of the greatest challenges of a Badwater 135 is the harsh desert weather. As you can see, the race starts, it'll be probably close to 90 degrees running through the desert overnight, and could get as high as 114 the next day. The weather finally starts to cool off as you reach higher elevations. Ashley Paulson won the women's race in 23:44. This was her second year in a row winning this race. Huge win for Ashley Paulson. She won outright, which is to say that she was ahead of the first male winner. And the first man winner was Simen Holvik from Norway in a time of 24:28.